Hey everyone, Justin Crumley here with the Cujo Productions channel. Welcome to Creepypasta-Thon 2017. This is a little different. I'm obviously in front of the camera. I thought this would be more fun. Maybe throw a curveball at you guys. Maybe you enjoy it, and maybe you don't. Whatever the case, glad you're watching, at least for now. With me today is my brother from another mother, the living legend himself, Josh Thompson.
Hello, how you guys doing?
And we listened to this story on YouTube because we don't. Who has time to read? Who reads anymore? We listened to this. I found another. It's called I Found Another Sonic Game, and it's a description creepypasta based off of a video game. Yeah, we've heard this before. We've heard it done well. There isn't too many of them that I can think of besides like Sonic EXE, Mortal Kombat, and Tails Doll. I thought Tails Doll was handled pretty well, and Mortal Kombat EXE is probably like the best.
Yeah, I would agree.
Sonic.exe is more like you have to play the emulator or something, the game. But like it's just so anyway. This one is like a I don't know what the hell to even call it, a spin-off.
I feel like it's a follow. What it does is it kind of follows up on the original Sonic EXE story, trying to give more of a background, and then kind of expanding on what exactly happens when you discover the game and the entity behind it. It definitely covers those things. I feel like you do have to have the knowledge of Sonic EXE prior, or you don't understand what he's referring to, what he refers to, because he is very vague. That is one thing that I will have to say, is that unfortunately, I felt like there was a lot of repetition that was rough, and the descriptions were not very vivid. It gave a lot. It left things very vague, and unless that was the intention of the author, I felt like it definitely made it a lot harder to grasp what is supposed to be so horrifying about this creature, you know.
Well, I think overall this one, I've been doing this since 2013. I haven't ran into a bunch of like bad ones. The way I do these lists is I always just get a random thing together. And when I listen to them, it's the first time I'm ever hearing them. I don't want to go back and like get rid of it because it's a bad one or not. But I want to be honest. This one, I'm not a fan. I'm just gonna flat out say it. I'm not a fan of this one. I didn't think it was the greatest. I thought it kind of dragged. And I'm gonna try and say this without being harsh because I've actually written a really bad one myself. So I would be a hypocrite for not talking about that. I'll acknowledge I've written some bad ones. So I don't want to come off like I'm talking down, but I gotta be honest. I wasn't a huge fan of this one. I thought it was definitely very long. It was like 33 some minutes, which isn't always bad. 1999 is like an hour long, and
no, I feel like if the story is paced well, it can definitely be that long. I felt like it started off incredibly slow. It was very hard to get invested purely because of the fact that it took about 15 minutes to really start pulling you in, at least in my opinion. And it did get better as time went on, but I felt like the story was written with a very suspense-driven motive in mind. And unfortunately, by the end, the end part where it describes what is happening and the climax of things, I felt like the payoff was like minimal for all what they tried to create. Like 30 minutes of suspense. And then they drop off, and it's like the climax ended up being very
It's told in the style of like a recording, like somebody digs up a video file or a videotape or something, kind of like the movie VHS, which is a lot. But
from what I understand, it was just an audio file.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's told in the form of an audio file. And those can go one of two ways. They can be really good and really haunting, or they can just kind of like build up to nothing. I almost think that's what those are all about, is the payoff. And this one, unfortunately, I just kind of like... And when I mentioned the time, that's 33 minutes. It felt like 30 plus minutes because it was just I wasn't feeling anything. Now when I listen to like 1999, that doesn't feel like an hour because it's great. It's such a good story.
Well, I feel like one of the reasons why it felt so long is there were a couple instances where there would be a line or two that would be like trying to build up suspense, but the way that it was worded in a way that the payoff had to be immediately after, or it lost its feel. Like when there was a specific set of words used. Like there was one time where it said, we were both proven right immediately after. Like you have to go ahead.
Well, there was also like one more thing, and I didn't mention this. And that,
yeah, that's exactly.
it's
those
like,
are the ones
okay,
that were
well,
escaping me.
All right.
And you have to immediately address those, because if you don't, you leave the audience hanging. And I feel like he didn't address all those, and then the ones that he did then broke up the suspense that they were trying to build throughout the whole video. So it was like, I enjoy the callback and pushing forward with this lore, because I feel like it was interesting on a lore level, but on a storytelling level, it wasn't quite as much. Like if you were somehow were able to cut 10 minutes off of that video and then put it together that way and just reverb it, or change the verbiage a little bit, I feel like it would be stronger, because I feel like the lore that was established and more of that concept that the entity in Sonic EXE is actually an entity, and it's something that is a living being, and that these people that are creating these original characters, the original content, like their fan fiction characters for Sonic and stuff, and how they relate back, and that the Sonic EXE monster feeds on that and kills the fake content creature, and then it kills the person behind it too on top of that. Like, I thought that was kind of cool, kind of establishing the lore.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, I think that was a great way of what it does is it takes and it creates that community that's there, and it's a big one, and it pulls it in, and it makes you think about it more. Like, oh man, like it makes you like that little like tinge in the back of your head, even though you know it's not true. You're like, what happens if I did make a character, and all of a sudden this shit did start happening to me? You know, like it makes you kind of worry a little bit, even though it's an irrational fear. Those are the kind of things that I feel like could have definitely been established more if the writing was just a hair more concise. I am a fan of the things that were established. I'm just not a fan of how they were established, purely on a writing level. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that is a great way to put it.
You know, honestly, would you recommend this to anybody? This story in particular?
I would recommend it to a select group. I would definitely recommend it to people that are fans of the Sonic EXE story. I would also recommend it to Sonic fans that are very strong fans of Sonic in general, because I think the demonization of this character that's supposed to be like the cool hotshot guy is interesting, and I think it's kind of a fun way to establish that like maybe that this powerful hedgehog isn't quite as good-hearted as you would assume, you know. So I think it's kind of cool. So I would only recommend it to a select group, but I would recommend it to some people. But yeah, unfortunately, it wouldn't be everybody. It's not like Sonic EXE where you can pick it up and it has a little bit more of a lasting effect because there's something to.
Well, like I said,
visually
with Sonic EXE, it's more like you have to play the game itself.
Yeah,
which I've seen people do, and it's legitimately freaky. You know, when I first saw it, it kind of freaked me out.
It's disconcerting for sure.
As far as me recommending this, I don't think I really would, unless
it
is to like that select group of Sonic fans. Which I love Sonic. You know, I'm not a diehard fan like I used to be back in middle school, but you know, I like Sonic. So I thought this one would stand out to me, but it really didn't. It kind of fell flat. So that's why I say I can't speak for all like Sonic fans.
Right.
And I really can't even speak for everybody. So if you want to check it out, you can. It's about 33 minutes long. So
I would recommend that purely because of how much this story relies on your knowledge of Sonic EXE prior. If you are not fully clear on all the parameters of what was established in Sonic EXE, I would go back and watch the video again if you're going to do this. Realistically, you're probably going to have to put about an hour aside to cover both Sonic EXE and then this following up to make it so that everything makes sense. Because one thing I will say that I think did hurt this, and it kind of goes against the concise part, is that there is not a lot of description of what these characters are like. It's very vague, and it just kind of lets you have to know what he's referencing, and doesn't give you like people that are not aware of these communities, like the Sonic creationist community and the Sonic EXE game and the creepypasta lore around it and all that other stuff. Like it expects you to have a knowledge of this. So if you don't, it can leave you scratching your head, and it does, and that is why I feel like I would only recommend it to that select group. Because if you're not a fan, or if you're just not knowledgeable of the lore around this, like this creepypasta prior, you're going to be completely lost. You're not going to know what he's referencing about, what exactly he's killing. Like the video from Mr. Creepypasta that we watched definitely added a huge amount more with the Sonic EXE video playing in the background. Because if I didn't have that visual, like, it took me a minute to kind of get together everything that's going on, and I'm familiar with it, you know.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely I feel like the writer had good ideas. I felt like it needed to be shortened, and kind of compromised with a little bit more detail, giving a little bit more backstory, or a little bit just establishing more of a understanding for those who might walk into the story not knowing that it's using previously established lore to drive the concept, you know. But that's just my interpretation.
All right, well, real quick before we end this, what's your favorite like video game based creepypasta, if there is one at all?
There is one. There's a Mario one that I heard like in the very beginning, kind of like when I started getting into this, and it's like I can't stop running, or just keep running, something like that. And the concept is that this character, the main character of the story, and if I'm trying to recall this correctly, is he plays this hacked version of Mario, and then all of a sudden he has this like overwhelming urge that like something's following him. He has to keep moving, keep running, and he ends up keep moving and running, and like to the point that he wears himself out.
I never actually
death.
Heard that one. I thought you were gonna say Ben drowned.
It's okay. I feel like it's one of those.
Ben drowned.
Well, I feel like the visuals.
Oh yeah, the visual
created more
really
of
disturbing.
a scariness to it than the actual story.
That fucking doll-looking version of Link that looks like, what are they? Them like dolls.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
little Russian.
little Russian.
Like
set of like the dolls. Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
That looks really creepy. That's like the best thing I can say about that. The story itself is pretty interesting.
Well, I feel like,
but my favorite.
Go ahead, yeah.
Mortal Kombat.exe.
No, I feel like it's definitely a good one.
That one fucking gets me every time. Maybe because like Mortal Kombat's my shit, so.
No, I definitely understand
that fucking ending where the guy looks into the camera and tells the guy watching that he won, and he killed all his fucking friends. It's like, oh my god, that blew me away when I first heard that.
Well, the one thing,
oh fuck.
The one thing kind of going back to like with Ben Drown and the visuals is with Ben Drown, and I feel like it kind of in the same concept with Jeff the Killer, the stories themselves were not the strongest aspects. It was the visuals that fell around it, like the picture of Jeff the Killer with the big,
really, like,
with the huge eyes, and like it almost reminiscent to the Smile Dog picture, like that same feel. Like that scared me more than the story ever did, you know. And I feel like with Ben Drown, that same thing, the picture of the person, the doll version of Link, and how he's supposed to be like he's so creepy. Like I feel like he's the poster child of that concept, and that story, not the actual story itself. Because like to be honest with you, I'm not super familiar with the story, but I know the visual when I see it, you know. So I mean, it's one of those things. I feel like there's certain creepypastas that are liked more for the character around them, the visuals that are created because of the stories, than the actual stories themselves. Like Slender Man, I feel like his stories aren't what make people grow to him.
No, it's the games.
It's that too. The games definitely are very. You're very true, but yeah, his design.
So recognizable.
Yeah, it's one of those things where.
Well, let's wrap this up.
We'll find that.
This video is gonna be so long, but anyway, guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my brother Josh for being in this and listening to this. That was great. Till next time, I'm Justin Crumley, and this is Cujo Productions signing out.